When David stumbled upon 4 tiny, abandoned Maltipoo puppies hiding in the tall grass by the barn, his heart broke for them, and for their missing mother. Little did we know that these fragile creatures would become the heartbeat of our farm, teaching us about loss, resilience, and the mysterious ways love finds a home. In the quiet moments between struggle and hope, the bond we formed with those puppies changed everything. The first light of dawn crept over the sprawling Florida farmland, casting long shadows across the dew-kissed grass. The air was thick with the scent of earth and wildflowers, mingling with the faint salty breeze drifting in from the nearby coast. The rhythmic lowing of our cows filled the stillness, a comforting backdrop to the slow awakening of the farm. I was sitting at the kitchen table, sipping my lukewarm coffee, watching the steam curl into the air, when I heard David's voice calling me from outside. It was a soft, urgent call, different from his usual hearty greeting or casual farm talk. Instinctively, I set my mug down and stepped onto the porch, feeling the rough boards beneath my feet and the chill of the morning air. The sun had just begun to warm the horizon when I followed David's voice toward the old barn at the edge of the pasture. The barn's weathered wood, bleached by years of sun and storms, stood in stark contrast to the fresh green of the grass that swayed gently around it. It was a place filled with memories, the calves we'd raised, the late nights tending to sick animals, the long conversations between us under starlit skies. David was crouched low by the barn side, his broad shoulders tense, eyes fixed on something nestled in the tall grass. As I approached, my breath caught in my throat. 4 tiny figures, barely bigger than my hand, trembled against the earth. Maltipoo puppies, soft, scruffy, and utterly helpless. Their fur was matted with dirt and dew, their eyes wide and searching, reflecting a mix of fear and hope. The smallest whimpered softly, nuzzling its siblings as if drawing strength from their closeness. David's voice was quiet, almost reverent. "They were alone here, Pat. No sign of their mother. I'm afraid she didn't make it." A sharp pang of sadness pierced my heart. The thought of these fragile lives, abandoned and exposed, stirred every protective instinct I had. I knelt beside David, my hands trembling slightly as I reached toward the puppies. One of them looked up at me, eyes glistening with trust, and in that moment, I felt a silent plea, for warmth, for safety, for family. "We can't just leave them here," I whispered, my voice thick with emotion. David nodded, brushing a stray tuft of fur from one puppy's face. "They're hungry. I found some scraps near the fence, but it's not enough. They've been waiting for their mother." As I lifted the smallest pup gently into my arms, I felt the rapid heartbeat beneath its fragile chest. It was so small, so vulnerable, yet its spirit was fierce, a desperate determination to survive. We carried the puppies into the farmhouse, careful not to jostle them. Patricia's pragmatism surfaced, there were things to be done. Warm milk needed to be prepared, soft blankets laid out, and a plan to care for these unexpected guests. But beneath the practical tasks, my mind wandered. Who had left them here? Why? The farm had always been a sanctuary, but now it felt like a place of secrets waiting to be uncovered. David's hand found mine as we settled the puppies by the hearth. "We'll take care of them, Pat. Just like we always do." His words grounded me. Despite the uncertainty ahead, there was comfort in our shared resolve. These puppies were more than just animals, they were a new chapter in our lives, fragile threads woven into the fabric of our family. As the morning sun rose higher, casting a warm glow through the windows, I cradled the smallest pup close. In those quiet moments, surrounded by the sounds and smells of the farm, I realized this discovery would change everything. Not just for the puppies, but for us. The farm was already alive with the sounds of morning by the time I woke. The distant lowing of cows, the chirping of birds hidden in the oaks, and the gentle rustling of leaves in the warm Florida breeze filled the air. But today, a new chorus joined the familiar symphony, the soft whimpers and tiny yips of the 4 Maltipoo puppies nestled in a basket by the fireplace. I smiled softly as I crossed the kitchen floor. David was already up, tending to the morning chores, but I could see the warmth in his eyes whenever he glanced toward the living room. These puppies, so small, so fragile, had already started to weave themselves into the fabric of our days. The first hurdle was feeding them. Bottle after bottle of warm formula, carefully measured and gently coaxed into their tiny mouths, became our routine. Each feeding was a quiet ritual, a time when the puppies' trust in us grew with every sip. Their little tails wagged at the slightest touch, their soft fur brushing against my skin like a promise that they belonged here now. David and I talked quietly in the evenings, sharing our hopes and worries. The farm wasn't an easy life, disease in the cattle, unpredictable weather, and the constant challenge of keeping food supplies steady. Yet somehow, these tiny creatures seemed to breathe new hope into our daily struggles. What surprised me most was the way the puppies seemed to sense the rhythm of the farm. It was subtle at first, the way they perked their ears when a cow was restless or when a storm was approaching. Sometimes, one of them would bark softly before David noticed a problem in the barn. It was as if they were trying to tell us something, trying to help. I found myself watching them more closely, wondering if this wasn't just puppy behavior but something deeper. Could it be that their bond with us, with this place, was stronger than I realized? One afternoon, David was examining a cow that had stopped eating, concern etched on his face. I saw the puppies gather quietly nearby, noses twitching as if trying to understand the animal's distress. Then, to my surprise, one of the puppies, whom we'd named Sunny for her bright, curious nature, walked directly to the cow and nudged her gently. David smiled, a rare moment of relief washing over him. "Maybe these little ones are more than just puppies," he said softly. Despite the joy the puppies brought us, there was an unanswered question that lingered in the back of my mind: how had they ended up alone on our farm? Their mother's absence was a wound none of us could ignore. I asked David if he had heard anything from neighbors or passing travelers, but no one had seen the puppy's mother or knew how long they had been left behind. The farm was a large place, with fields stretching toward the horizon and thick woods that bordered one side. It was easy for something to go unnoticed out here, but I couldn't shake the feeling that the puppies were somehow connected to the land more deeply than just by chance. As the days passed, I began to notice little things: a worn patch of grass near the barn where the puppies often rested, faint tracks leading deeper into the woods, and sometimes, the soft echo of footsteps in the distance just out of sight. David and I grew closer as we cared for the puppies together. His usual stoic nature softened, and I saw the tenderness in his eyes as he cradled the smallest pup, Luna. Our children, though grown and living away, sent messages of concern and joy when they heard about our new family additions. The farm was becoming a place of healing and unexpected blessings. One evening, as we sat watching the sun set behind the orange groves, I whispered to David, "These puppies, they're more than just animals. They're part of our family now." He nodded, squeezing my hand. "And maybe, they're here to remind us that even when things break, there's still hope to be found." The humid Florida air clung to my skin as I walked through the pasture that morning. The familiar scent of fresh earth and sweet grass filled my senses, but beneath it all, there was something else, a faint unease that tugged at me, subtle but persistent. I glanced toward the barn where the puppies loved to nap in the shade, their soft whines barely audible over the rustling leaves. David was already at work, his weathered hands steady and sure as he checked on the cattle. I admired his quiet strength, how he faced the daily hardships of farming with grit and care. But lately, I saw a weariness in his eyes, a reflection of the struggles we both carried. The farm was good land, but tending to 50 head of cattle was never simple, especially with occasional illnesses and the constant worry about feed. As I neared the barn, I noticed something unusual. A small, tattered piece of fabric snagged on a fence post. It was delicate, almost silky, but dirted and torn. I picked it up gently, my fingers tracing the worn edges. It looked like part of a collar or a piece of cloth, something that didn't belong to the farm. My heart quickened. Could this be connected to the puppies? Had someone been here recently? My mind flashed to the tragic story David told me about the puppy's mother, the accident that took her life. But how had they managed to survive so long without her? Back inside the barn, the puppies greeted me eagerly. Sunny, Luna, Max, and Buddy, each one with their distinct personality and energy, wove around my legs, their tiny tails wagging with hope. I scooped up Luna, the smallest of the group, feeling the warmth of her soft fur against my cheek. There was something remarkable about these little creatures. Not just their resilience, but their intuition. Just the other day, I'd seen Max lead me to a sick calf hidden behind the hay bales, a calf we might have missed had it not been for him. They seemed to sense the needs of the farm animals in ways that felt almost beyond normal puppy behavior. I watched them closely, my heart swelling with affection. These puppies were not just animals, they were our family's unexpected lifeline. That evening, as twilight settled over the farm, a knock came at the door. I opened it to find Mrs. Harper, a longtime neighbor with sharp eyes and a kind smile. "I heard you found some puppies," she said quietly, glancing toward the barn. "You're a good woman for taking them in." I invited her inside, grateful for the company and advice. Over cups of strong tea, she told me about a string of incidents in the area, stray animals being abandoned, sometimes by people struggling with hard times, other times for reasons no one understood. "There's a sadness out here, Patricia," she said softly. "People leaving behind pieces of themselves, and sometimes those pieces come looking for a new home." Her words settled over me like a shadow, and I wondered if our little family of 4 puppies was part of something bigger, a story of loss, survival, and the search for belonging. Days passed, and the puppies thrived under our care. David and I fell into a rhythm, feeding, cleaning, tending to the animals, and watching those small lives grow stronger each day. One afternoon, as the Florida sun dipped low, casting long golden shadows, David sat on the porch steps with Buddy curled up beside him. I joined him, resting my head on his shoulder. "These pups," David said slowly, "they're teaching me more about hope than anything else ever could." I smiled, squeezing his hand. Maybe that's what we all need. A reminder that even when life feels broken, there's always a chance to heal. Rocky, our old farm dog, wandered over, sniffing curiously at the puppies. His calm presence grounded us, a reminder of the enduring loyalty that held our family together. The soft Florida breeze carried the scent of magnolias and fresh rain as I stepped outside early one morning. The farm was waking up slowly, the cows were stirring in the pasture, and the first rays of sunlight filtered through the oak trees that lined the property. Everything looked peaceful, but beneath that calm surface, I felt the quiet pull of unanswered questions. David was already at the barn, his figure silhouetted against the morning light. I watched him for a moment, admiring his steadfast dedication. Farming was never easy, and lately, the weight of illness among the cattle and the unpredictable weather had been wearing on him. But despite the challenges, he never faltered. That kind of strength was what had drawn me to him years ago. As I approached, I noticed the puppies playing near the fence, tumbling over each other with joyous abandon. Sunny was chasing her own tail, while Luna and Max wrestled gently on the soft grass. Even little Buddy was trying to keep up, his tiny paws moving faster than his body could manage. Their energy was infectious, reminding me how life persisted even after loss. But the mystery of their past lingered like a shadow over us. The torn piece of fabric I found earlier was still in my pocket, a tangible reminder that their story was far from over. That afternoon, I wandered through the orchard behind the barn, the puppies trotting close behind me. It was there I found it, a shallow digging in the dirt, fresh and deliberate. Curious, I knelt down and brushed away the loose soil, revealing a small, rusted tin box. My heart skipped. Carefully, I pried it open. Inside lay a folded piece of paper, yellowed with age, and a faded photograph of a young woman holding a Maltipoo puppy, one that looked remarkably like our Luna. The note was brief but poignant. "For those who find this, know that love and hope live on. Take care of her." I clutched the paper, tears prickling my eyes. Someone had cared deeply for these puppies, or at least one of them. But who? And why had they been left behind? That evening, I shared the discovery with David as we sat on the porch, the sky ablaze with hues of orange and pink. His brow furrowed thoughtfully. "Maybe there's more to these pups than we thought," he mused. "Maybe they're meant to be here, with us." Just then, a familiar truck rumbled down the dirt road. It was Old Man Harris, the retired vet who had been helping us with the cattle. "Thought I'd drop by," he called, stepping out with a warm smile. "Heard about the new additions." We invited him inside, eager for advice. He examined the puppies carefully, nodding in approval. "Smart little ones," he said, gently feeling their bellies. "They've got good instincts, can sense when something's wrong with the herd." His words echoed what David and I had begun to notice. The puppies seemed to possess a quiet intelligence, a subtle connection to the farm and its creatures. Days turned into weeks, and the bond between us and the puppies deepened. They followed David and me everywhere, their antics filling the house with laughter and light. I found solace in their innocence, their unspoken understanding. Caring for them helped heal wounds I hadn't even realized were there, wounds from the years of hard work, loss, and uncertainty. One evening, as I rocked Luna in my arms, I whispered a promise to her: "We'll keep you safe. We'll find out your story, and we'll give you the family you deserve." And in those moments, surrounded by the gentle breathing of the puppies and the fading light of day, I believed we could face whatever came next. The Florida heat was relentless that summer, wrapping the farm in thick waves of humidity. The air was heavy with the scent of blooming jasmine and freshly cut hay, but beneath the beauty, tension simmered. The cattle had been restless, some falling ill despite our best efforts. David worked tirelessly, his hands roughened and weary, yet his determination never wavered. I could see the worry behind his eyes, the burden of responsibility pressing on him. The puppies, now a little bigger and more confident, seemed to sense the unease. They followed David closely, their soft paws patting beside his boots, as if offering silent encouragement. One morning, as David tended to a sick cow near the far fence, Max began to bark urgently. At first, David ignored it, focused on his work, but Max's persistence grew louder. Curious, David followed the puppy's gaze and spotted a patch of damp earth where the cow had been lying awkwardly. "That calf's not right," David muttered, kneeling down for a closer look. If we hadn't noticed this, it might have gotten worse. I watched from the porch, pride swelling in my chest. The puppies weren't just companions, they were helpers, their sharp instincts guiding us when we were stretched thin. That evening, I sat on the porch swing, Sunny curled in my lap. The little pup looked up at me with eyes full of trust, and I felt a warmth that no hardship could extinguish. David joined me, exhaustion etched on his face. "There's something special, aren't they?" I nodded. "They've changed this farm, and us." We talked long into the night about the mysteries surrounding the puppies' origins and the strange intuition they seemed to possess. Despite the unanswered questions, one thing was clear: these puppies had found a home, and we had found a family. Days later, a letter arrived, postmarked from a town several miles away. Inside was a note from a woman named Claire, who claimed to have known the puppy's mother. She explained how the mother dog had been a beloved companion on a nearby farm but had been lost in a tragic accident. Claire's words were tinged with sorrow and hope. She asked if we would care for her puppies and keep them safe, revealing that the pups had been born on the land we now called home. The truth settled over us like a gentle rain. These puppies were not just abandoned, they were waiting for us to find them, waiting for a family. But life on the farm was not without its hardships. That week, a sudden shortage of feed threatened the health of our cattle. The puppies, sensing the urgency, seemed restless and alert. One afternoon, I noticed Luna and Buddy near the storage shed, digging and barking excitedly. Following their lead, David and I discovered a small tear in the feed sack. Rats had been sneaking in and contaminating the supply. Thanks to the puppies' keen senses, we were able to save enough feed to get through the crisis. That night, as we gathered around the kitchen table, I felt a profound sense of gratitude. The farm, with its challenges and mysteries, had brought us together in unexpected ways. David reached across the table, his hand warm in mine. "We're stronger than we think, Pat. And so is this little family." I smiled, looking toward the sleeping puppies curled up in the corner. They had come into our lives quietly, but their impact was undeniable. As the stars twinkled outside, I whispered a silent promise, to protect this family, to uncover every secret, and to cherish every moment of hope. The early morning light spilled through the kitchen window, casting soft golden hues across the worn wooden floor. I stood by the sink, watching the puppies tumble over each other in their new play area. Their playful antics were a welcome distraction from the weight of the day's chores. David appeared in the doorway, a quiet smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "They're growing fast," he said, his voice low but filled with warmth. "They are," I agreed, reaching down to stroke Sunny's soft fur. It's hard to believe they were so tiny just weeks ago. Our life on the farm had shifted in ways I hadn't expected. The puppies were more than just additions to our family, they had become symbols of hope and resilience. Each day, they taught us to find joy in the little things, even when the world outside felt uncertain. Over the past weeks, I'd noticed something extraordinary about the puppies. Their intelligence went beyond typical puppy behavior. They seemed to sense the moods of the farm, responding with gentle nudges or alert barks whenever something was amiss. One afternoon, as I tended to the garden, Luna sat by my side, her eyes fixed on the horizon. Suddenly, she rose and trotted toward the barn, barking softly. Curious, I followed. David was already there, inspecting one of the cows that had been acting strangely. The puppy's timely alert had brought attention to the animal's discomfort before it worsened. It was moments like these that deepened our trust, not just in the puppies, but in each other. We were becoming a true family, connected by more than just blood or routine. One evening, as the sun dipped low, David and I sat by the fire pit, the cool night air wrapped around us like a comforting blanket. The letter from Claire lay between us, a reminder of the puppy's mysterious past. "Have you thought about visiting her?" I asked softly. David nodded. "I think it's time. We owe it to the puppies to understand where they came from." The next morning, we set out on the short drive to Claire's farm. The landscape shifted from open fields to dense woods, the air thick with the scent of pine and earth. When we arrived, Claire greeted us warmly, her eyes shining with tears as she spoke of the mother dog's gentle spirit and the tragedy that had separated the family. As Claire shared stories of the puppy's early days, I felt a profound connection, not just to the puppies, but to the land, the animals, and the unspoken bond that held us all together. Back on our farm, the days grew busier. David wrestled with the ongoing animal illnesses, and the threat of another feed shortage loomed. Yet, through it all, the puppies remained a source of strength. One evening, as a storm brewed on the horizon, Buddy and Max alerted us to a sudden change in the herd's behavior. Their barking and pacing were frantic, pulling David and me into action. With Rocky's help, we managed to secure the animals just before the storm hit, the thunder rolling overhead like a warning from nature itself. As we huddled together in the barn, the puppies nestled close, their warmth a balm against the storm raging outside. That night, lying awake in bed, I thought about the journey we'd been on, the losses, the mysteries, the unexpected joys. The puppies had brought light into our lives when we needed it most, reminding us that family could be found in the most unlikely places. I reached out for David's hand, finding comfort in his steady grasp. "Whatever comes next," I whispered, "we face it together." And with that promise, I closed my eyes, ready to greet whatever dawn awaited us. The first light of dawn stretched across the Florida farm like a promise, soft and golden, casting long shadows over the familiar fields. The air was rich with the scent of earth and blooming wildflowers, mingling with the gentle sounds of waking animals. It was a peaceful morning, but beneath the calm, something had shifted. As I stepped out onto the porch, the puppies were already busy exploring the yard, Sunny chasing butterflies, Luna sniffing at the clover, while Max and Buddy tussled playfully near the barn. Their energy was infectious, a reminder of life's persistence even amid hardship. David joined me, a quiet smile on his face as he watched the puppies. "They're settling in," he said softly, his eyes reflecting pride and something deeper, hope. "I feel like they belong here," I replied. "Like they've been waiting for us all along." Later that day, a vehicle rumbled down the dirt road, a rare visitor to our quiet farm. It was Claire, the woman who had sent the letter about the puppy's mother. She arrived carrying a weathered box, wrapped in faded cloth. "I thought you might like this," Claire said, her voice gentle yet firm. She handed me the box, and as I unwrapped it, a collection of old photographs and letters spilled into my hands. The photos showed the mother dog, proud and radiant, posing with a younger Claire and, occasionally, a man whose face was unfamiliar. The letters spoke of love and loss, but also hope and determination. Claire's words revealed a deeper story, one of a family torn apart but never broken. "Your puppies," Claire said softly, "they carry more than just memories. They carry a legacy." Over the following weeks, the bond between us and the puppies blossomed. Their intelligence continued to amaze me. Max would alert David before a sick cow even showed symptoms, and Luna seemed to understand my moods, curling up beside me on my toughest days. David and I grew closer, finding comfort in shared moments and the quiet strength of our growing family. The farm, once a place of hardship and uncertainty, became a sanctuary, a place where love and resilience thrived. One afternoon, as I watched the puppies play in the sunlight, I whispered, "You're our miracle." But the peace was fragile. A new challenge emerged when one of the cows began showing signs of a mysterious illness. Despite David's best efforts and the vet's advice, the disease spread quickly, threatening the livelihood of the farm. The puppies, sensing the urgency, stayed close, Sunny barking sharply at the gates whenever something seemed wrong, and Buddy refusing to leave David's side. Together, we faced the crisis head-on, the puppy's intuition guiding us through the darkest days. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, I sat with David on the porch, the puppies curled at our feet. "We've been through so much," David said quietly. "But we're still standing. Still fighting." I nodded, feeling the truth of his words deep in my heart. "We're a family," I said. "And together, we can face anything." The puppies looked up at us, their eyes shining with trust and love. In their presence, I felt a profound sense of hope, a belief that no matter what storms came our way, we would weather them side by side. The morning sun filtered softly through the window as I woke to the gentle rhythm of life on the farm. Outside, the puppies were already awake, their playful barks mingling with the calls of the morning birds. The air was warm and fragrant with jasmine and freshly turned soil, a reminder of the cycle of growth and renewal that defined this place. David was in the kitchen, preparing breakfast, his movements steady and familiar. The farm's challenges weighed on him, but moments like this, quiet, ordinary, shared, were what kept us grounded. I joined him, wrapping my arms around his waist. "How are you feeling today?" I asked gently. He smiled, though his eyes held the fatigue of long days. "Better. The puppies, they're a good distraction. And maybe more than that. The recent illness among the cattle had left us searching for solutions. Traditional treatment seemed slow and uncertain. But watching the puppies' intuitive behavior gave me an idea, a blend of old farming wisdom and new hope. I began researching natural remedies used by farmers before modern medicine took hold. Herbal teas, salves made from local plants, and attentive care became part of our routine. The puppies seemed to respond too, their calm presence soothing the animals, easing tension in ways I hadn't expected. David watched with quiet admiration as I worked alongside the puppies and the livestock. "You're healing more than just the animals," he said one evening, eyes soft with gratitude. "You're healing this farm, and us." The puppies grew stronger every day, their bond with the farm and its creatures deepening. Max and Buddy seemed to anticipate the needs of the herd, while Sunny and Luna offered comfort during long, exhausting nights. One afternoon, as I sat in the shade of the old oak tree, Luna curled up beside me, resting her head on my knee. I traced gentle patterns on her fur, feeling a peace I hadn't known in years. David joined us, holding a basket of fresh herbs. "I think we're turning a corner," he said. "The cattle are improving." Hope blossomed in my chest, fragile but real. Just as we were settling into this new rhythm, Claire returned with news. She had found a man who might be connected to the puppies' past, a distant relative who had cared deeply for their mother. The possibility stirred old questions and new hope. Who was this man? Could he help us understand the puppies' story better? David and I prepared for a visit that might change everything, unsure of what answers awaited us but ready to face them together. That night, as the farm settled into silence, I looked around at our little family. The puppies sleeping soundly, David by my side, the animals resting peacefully. It was a scene of quiet triumph. We had faced loss and mystery, hardship and hope. And through it all, we had found strength in each other. No matter what the future held, I knew one thing with certainty: love, like the roots of the trees surrounding us, was what would keep us grounded, growing, and resilient. The morning sun cast long shadows across the farm as we prepared for our visit to meet the man Claire had found. The air was thick with anticipation, and a touch of nervous excitement. David and I moved quietly, our minds racing with questions about what this meeting might reveal about the puppy's past. The drive through the winding Florida roads was filled with silence, broken only by the occasional bark from the puppies nestled safely in the back seat. Their trust in us felt like a fragile thread connecting past and future. When we arrived at the small, weathered farmhouse, an elderly man with kind eyes and a gentle smile greeted us. He introduced himself as Henry, a distant relative of the puppy's mother, and as we sat down, stories began to unfold, stories of love, loss, and the deep bond between animals and humans. Henry spoke of the mother dog's bravery, her fierce protectiveness, and the hardships she endured. He told us how the puppies had been born on the land that was now our farm, a connection none of us had realized before. Listening to Henry's tales, I felt a surge of emotion. The puppies were not just rescued animals, they were part of a lineage, a family with roots deeply entwined in this very soil. It was as if the land itself had whispered their story to us, guiding us to heal old wounds and create new beginnings. David squeezed my hand, his eyes shining with pride and relief. "They belong here," he said softly. "With us." The puppies, sensing the significance of the moment, gathered close, their eyes bright and trusting. It was a quiet reunion, not just of people, but of history, love, and hope. Returning to the farm, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. The challenges were far from over. There were still sick animals to care for, feed shortages to manage, and mysteries to unravel. But the burden felt lighter somehow, shared among us all. The puppies continued to be our guides, their instincts a silent but powerful force that led us through difficult times. Watching them grow, I saw not only their strength but the strength they inspired in us. One evening, as the sun set in a blaze of orange and pink, I stood with David, Rocky, and the puppies, feeling a profound connection to this place and to each other. The farm was no longer just land and livestock. It was a home, a living, breathing testament to resilience and love. I looked down at Sunny, who nuzzled my hand, and smiled. "We found you," I whispered. "And you found us." In that moment, surrounded by the people and animals who had become my family, I knew that no matter what storms lay ahead, we would face them united, bound by trust, hope, and the unbreakable ties of love. The sun rose slowly over our Florida farm, painting the sky with soft shades of pink and gold. It was a new day, a fresh beginning, and as I stepped outside, I felt the weight of all we'd endured gently lift from my shoulders. The air was alive with the promise of hope. The puppies, Sunny, Luna, Max, and Buddy, were already awake, tumbling over each other in their usual joyful chaos. Watching them, I realized how much they had changed all of us. From fragile, abandoned creatures to the heart of our family, they had brought light to our darkest days. David was in the barn, checking on the cattle, his face relaxed for the first time in weeks. The illness that had threatened our herd was finally receding, thanks in part to the puppy's instincts and the care we'd poured into every corner of the farm. I walked over to him, feeling the familiar comfort of his steady presence. "We made it," I said softly. He smiled, pulling me close. "Together," he replied. That afternoon, Claire returned to visit once more, her eyes shining with tears as she watched the puppies play under the shade of the oaks. The stories she shared about the mother dog, her courage and love, echoed in the gentle breeze. "This farm," Claire said, "it was meant to be their home. And now, it's yours too." We all stood together, the boundaries between past and present dissolving in the warmth of shared love. As the days turned to weeks, the farm thrived, not just because of the soil or the animals, but because of the bonds that had been forged through hardship and hope. The puppies continued to grow, their intelligence and loyalty a daily reminder that family was about more than blood. I often thought back to that quiet morning when David first found them, tiny and trembling. They had been lost, but now they were found in us, and in this place we called home. That night, as the stars glittered overhead, I sat on the porch with David, Rocky curled at our feet, and the puppies nestled close. "We've come a long way," I said, my voice filled with quiet joy. David nodded, his hand resting over mine. "And wherever life takes us next, we'll face it as a family." The puppies looked up, their eyes shining with trust and love. In their faces, I saw the future, bright, uncertain, and full of promise. And I knew, no matter what, we would always find our way home. In the quiet fields of Florida, for abandoned puppies found more than shelter, they found a family, a home, and a new beginning. Through loss, mystery, and unexpected bonds, Patricia and David's farm became a place where hope blossomed and love healed old wounds. If this story of resilience and heart touched you, make sure to subscribe and share your thoughts below, because sometimes, the smallest creatures leave the biggest paw prints on our hearts.